You
Yeah.
can't dig anywhere there without finding something that is hundreds or thousands of years old, and that's why there's a digging ban in Egypt and most of Africa, to be honest, because civilization has been there for a very long time.
Guys, welcome in and welcome back to the Men's Adventure Fiction Podcast. I'm very excited for a very special episode, another episode where we have a third host with us. So this is really exciting. And thank you to everyone real quick before we begin with Fighting Heart of Man coming out. We just wanted to say some gratitude for everyone who's purchased and has helped share that. It means a lot to us. And without further ado, Nathaniel, how about you introduce our guest here for the night, and
Yeah,
we'll get things
thank you
rolling.
guys so much for all your investment and interest in Fighting Hard to Man. It's been so much fun seeing you guys talk about it and get involved with it. But we have here with us tonight David Darling, the author of the Egyptian Enigma, along with tons of other stuff. You are a fairly prolific author, my friend. If you wanted to give the viewers kind of an overview of yourself, a little brief bio, and then we can dive right into a lot of the things that are talked about in this book and great, I don't know if tropes is the right word, but kind of subplots through men's adventure fiction as a whole. But yeah, take it away, David.
Well, hi. First, thank you very much for having me here. It's a pleasure, and obviously I'm a huge fan of the genre as a whole. The action adventure is just such a wide scope in an area. My background, well, I'm Canadian. If most of you can't figure it out with the accent, and I'm a former soldier in the Canadian Forces. I'm also a federal government employee now, still, and looking towards the retirement goal, which is coming up in about 5 years and 9 months. So,
Nice. But who's counting?
who's counting? Yeah. For me, that means I just get to write more as a full time job, and I'm looking forward to that. I have always been interested in reading. It's the way I got motivated. It was my escape. It was my constant adventure I could always have and carry with me at all times. So, all the grade 12 writing, creative writing classes didn't mean much because I didn't really start writing until I was about 47, 48
Okay.
and years old, and then I haven't stopped. I just haven't stopped at all. I've got 8 books published, and I've got 2 more coming out next year, and hopefully another 3 the year after that if things all go well.
Man,
That's
that's
so
awesome.
impressive. Yeah, and like Nathaniel said, you go across genres. You have so many unique creative stories. That's what I love about your works in particular. Is like they're always something new, something different. That it's giving the reader a bit of a different twist on the genre, which I love. And you did that again here with this one. You mentioned reading and being a fan of the genre. I'm always curious personally, especially now that I have a son and I want to get him into reading someday. Like, what was the book that got you personally into reading, if you remember that, and if it's something you could touch
Well, I
on?
do. It was. I'm really dating myself here. So you'll figure it out in a second. I'm 54. I'm turning 55 soon. So 1982. It was the Thomas Convent series by Lord Fowles Bane. It was about a man who
Okay.
got sucked into an alternate fantasy world, and he had leprosy, and he discovered the world was real, and it went on later. My aunt and uncle bought me that first 3 books in the series, and I never forgot it, and I immediately got transported into this magical world. Didn't
Yeah.
even know that was possible, and then from there, my imagination and reading just blew up. I always had a book. And since about 1984, I made the mistake. I stopped getting rid of my books, so I still have them. Every
Nice.
single book I've read. If I was in my library, you would. I got thousands and thousands of books downstairs. So it's
Man, that's so
great
cool.
right up until it's time to move, and then you then you need help in a lot of boxes. And then from there, I Piers Anthony, the Xanth series, but then it kept evolving. It wasn't just science fiction, fantasy. Then I'd get into Stephen King, like just
Right.
absolutely everything I can get my hands on, and I wasn't limited to one genre for reading. And I think that's part of why and how I changed as a writer. I can't just stay in one genre for writing. I know that was always recommended to new writers. Find your wheelhouse, stay in it, get good at that, then move on to something else. I didn't follow that advice. So I got a police thriller series on the go, the Noah Hunter series. Book 4 is hopefully coming out this year. And I have a time travel science fiction series on the go. The Egyptian Enigma is going to be, hopefully, book 1 in a long series, action adventure. Thank you. And there's other projects. I got a young adult fantasy series coming out starting this February, March. So
That's so cool.
I love it.
And I got your thriller books. I really enjoy writing, and if it's
Yeah.
a good premise and I think I have a good story, I'm not going to let a genre hold me back.
I love that. Yeah, David Morrell is one of my favorite authors, and same
Oh,
thing
yeah.
that he was taught the same type of thing of like, oh, you're a thriller guy now, you have to do thriller every time, and he was like, no, I don't want to do that. And seeing the way he like jumps around and stuff, and what you're doing too, I admire that in writers when they can say like, I'm not gonna do what the industry or like whoever is trying to tell me to do that. I want to write what I want to write. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
also
sure.
so true to like the pulp writers of yesteryear who like very much my favorite author of all time is Stephen Marlowe, and he's like most well known for a private investigator series, but he was a like prolific pulp author before, writing tons of science fiction. So I think it's like seeing a hole in the market and being like, all right, this is not my original wheelhouse. I'm pivoting and I'm taking this down. Like, it's what you got to do. You got to roll with the punches, bounce with it, and figure it
For
out.
sure.
And what I really like about this book is the Egyptian Enigma has so many different aspects of like classic pulp adventure and classic men's adventure fiction, but then it kind of like sneaks into a little bit of like pushing towards superhero-esque. There's some aspects of that, so it's like you can tell that it's rooted very deeply in kind of like the old school style of writing, and then it's got like the characters have such heart that it almost kind of would reach a younger audience as well. Like if you pick this up, you're not going to be like, oh, you have to have like a PhD or something to read it, because it is so engaging and so like. But then the research, like Luke was saying before we even started recording, I felt like I was learning so much. Like
Right.
my brain grew reading this book. So I think it's like it's so cool how you have your foot in so many different camps, or I don't know. It's just really well done.
Well, I found that. Well, first, thank you so much. I hope you learned something. Every single thing within that novel is true, except for the actual. I don't want to say the superhero. I'll just say the abilities of the main character.
Right.
Everything else, the locations, the layout of the Royal Ontario Museum,
So
the
cool.
crossroads where the story starts, to the reshot structure in West Africa. Like it's just everything is real, everything's factual. So there's nothing in there that isn't, including the armaments, how many stones in
Yeah.
a pyramid, rumors of the Hall of Records, which is what this story is about. It's a treasure hunt. And people have been after the Hall of Records for thousands of years because of the rumors. And that's
Yeah.
where I wanted to take the story. Rumors. And who doesn't love a good treasure hunt? And
Right.
that's part of, that's great. Bring me on
Yeah,
an
yeah.
adventure. And that's what I wanted. The main character, Ryan Peaty, your average guy living in his mom's basement, has a web design graphics business because he's trying to get his feet underneath him, and he doesn't know much. He's not a Navy SEAL, he's not a Green Beret, but he goes off and he rises to the occasion, and that's the story. So that's the part I really enjoy.
Yeah,
I love it.
yeah, for sure. I think that that's what makes it so interesting because, like I said, it's so like it's almost like you took like one of the stories from the big big book of adventure stories, and then you threw some guy who has no idea what he's doing in there. It totally changed, like it shifts the paradigm so much. And then to see him, I know Luke and I talk about it all the time. Like one of the reasons that we like survival stories so much is because you usually start out with someone who's like, he's got no chance of making it through this, and then by the end you build him up into this hero, and it's so cool to see that with Ryan. Great
Perfect.
job.
Yeah,
Yeah, because I'm definitely closer to Ryan than I am like Doc Savage in my real life. So when I can read this and I can see, myself in these adventures, it is a fun take on it. And that's going back to the same point I think I'd harp on if I was pitching you to anybody is that you do take such a unique angle, and every time you read like a David Darling book, it's going to be what you love, but like from a new lens and something that's fresh. And so, yeah, kudos to you for doing that. And
thank you, thank you.
so let's dive into treasure hunting a little bit. I mean, does everybody have a favorite treasure hunting story? If we were to say like, hey, recommend me a treasure hunting book or movie, what is your go-to when we hit that? And I'll let you go first, David.
Thank you. I think for me, to really build it and what got me interested, Harrison Ford, Raiders of the Lost Ark. I still
Yeah.
remember it when it came out in the movie, the ultimate treasure hunt.
Yeah.
The quest for the Holy Grails in there, the Covenant of the Ark. Like it just ancient. Everything was mixed in there. Boy, did that really drive something home, and it sparked the imagination. It got me so interested in that genre. I can't think of anything else that really sparked it later on, except for Dan Brown's Da Vinci Code for the ultimate treasure
Yeah.
hunt. It wasn't an actual full-blown treasure; it was more information and knowledge. But the secrets, the clues leading to another clue, man, that's the
Right.
part I really enjoy. Really, I eat it up. So.
That's awesome. What about you, Nathaniel?
I think it would. Oh man, it's so tough. I think I'd probably have to go with the video game Uncharted 4, because and it's what you do really well in the Egyptian Enigma, and it's one of my favorite parts. Is I love, and it's probably why the treasure hunting subgenre is my all-time favorite, is because you have these breadcrumbs, and somehow the Egyptians got to like all these different places, and Uncharted, the pirates went from like England to New Zealand to like all Italy. It's just like, all right, how did they get there? This was like the 1400s. How is this possible? But you're so willing to like believe it because it's so well based in history that you can just like totally be like, all right, yeah, this is a globe-trotting adventure, and we're gonna go from continent to continent to find this stuff, and it just sucks you in. The actions off the walls, the characters are great, and I think that that's what like with this book, you have that same energy where it's like, all right, this is going to start in one place, and then they've got to follow the breadcrumbs to this place, and then like, okay, now someone's been kidnapped, something bad's happened, now we got to go to this place, and I think that that's like it keeps you moving. You got to like, all right, I can't wait till we get to the next part. So I think that that's what I love so much about treasure hunting is like, it's just so good. Like Nathan Drake in the first part, he's out of the game. He works for a salvage company, and then his brother comes back from the dead, or so it seems, and he's like, I need you to come with me to Italy to steal something. And then they go, and then next thing you know, they're in England. Next thing you know, they're headed to the seven seas to find pirate treasure. And it's just like, yeah, I wish that someone would come back from the dead and tell me that they need me to go on a treasure hunt. I think it just speaks so truly to the heart of so many men. It's like I go through every single day of my life. I'm like, dude, I'm ready for somebody to tell me they need that I'm the key to solving this treasure hunt, and I'm done. It's over. I'm going for it. So I think
Save me,
that's
you're
why I
my
love
only hope.
Right,
Yes,
right.
exactly.
Yeah. Awesome.
Yeah. What
What
about
about
you,
you?
Luke?
So I love both your guys' answers too because I think they play off each other so nice. Where Nathan, you were saying all the different locations, going from place to place to place. Who doesn't love reading a book because it's that escape, right? I can jump into Brazil and then Italy and here, and I'm living all these different lives here in a book. And then also to your point, David, of the breadcrumbs. It's almost like detective fiction a little bit, where you're like, oh, we're opening up this clue. Let's talk to this person. Let's unlock this. You put the two together, and you have to like globetrot while getting these incredibly intricate plot details mixed with history. So you like are stimulating your mind and learning something. That's why this genre is so great, and why this book is so great. And so for my answer on treasure hunting, people are going to get annoyed with how much I talk about this, but The Mummy, I just love The Mummy, and I'm always going to go with The Mummy. So I don't know why that one does it really well for me. There's not as many locations, but I do love kind of how that one builds in history, and then even though it's like not accurate history, but like we have a history, and it's like weaved into the future plot line, and the way that the characters, the way their personalities are complementing each other, and seeing how they get to the end. And it kind of has like the biggest final brawl out of any treasure hunting movie I can think of. And I'm a big sucker for like end fight scenes. So I love the end fight scenes in The Mummy until they brought out the CGI rock for the second one. That was a little much for me.
No, I should have stopped with you at the first one myself. So, yeah.
Right. But yeah, I think that's my answer. But there's so many great ones. I still think they need to make a Clive Cussler another movie. Sahara was awesome, but I would love to see more Clive Cussler on the big screen. I think that would become my new favorite.
After, remind me, and I'm going to email you too the first couple chapters of book 2 of the Egyptian Enigma.
Oh baby!
I'll tell you right now. I'm toying with the title, which is hard, but it's called The Pharaoh's Code, and
Very
the
cool.
first 2 chapters alone, maybe 3, are pretty much a tribute to Clive Cussler.
Oh man, I love
Starts
that.
off with a shipwreck at sea, and it just takes off from there. So the research already has been just incredible. So just loving
That's
it.
sweet.
Just loving
I'm pumped. I'm pumped about that.
That's very exciting.
I love that.
Yeah, Clive Cussler knows how to spin a tale.
Yeah.
I haven't read a lot of the Dirk Pitt stories, but he has one of my other favorite characters in his Isaac Bell character, who is like a early 1900s private investigator who works for a company sort of like the Pinkertons. And I think there's actually a book where Dirk Pitt and Isaac Bell, it's like it flips back and forth between their perspectives, and they're like 100 years apart, and they're both looking for the same treasure.
That's sick.
So yeah, pretty cool stuff.
That is cool.
I'm the exact opposite. I only read the Clive Cussler or the Dirk Pitt stuff. I've never read the Isaac Bell stuff yet.
Well,
So
he
let
has
me check that
so
out.
many, like, what a vast library of characters. I think there's there's a husband and wife treasure hunting team who also are like relief people in Africa, and they have their whole series, and it's really cool. And then he's just got like the Numa files, I think, is another one.
Yeah.
The dude's just like
yeah.
Yep.
writing so much.
I think I have about 40 of his novels, including the
Nice.
people writing. So it has
Yeah,
a good mix.
That is awesome.
I wanted to use the Numa technology in the political background of Numa in my next book, and I was like, oh, I wish I could do that because it's kind of copyrighted. This guy
Right.
Until I found out there is an actual Numa now, researched and funded by Clive Cussler Foundation. So
Yeah,
all
he
this-
legit made it.
Yeah, it's actually real now. So I would technically I could use it in a
Right,
book
because it's a real
because
thing.
it's real.
Right.
But
crazy.
I wouldn't. It's his. So
Yeah.
like I'd feel bad because he built it because of his stories and his
Right.
career. So,
Well,
but
this
Got to
is
reach
like-
out to the estate and get permission or something.
Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, I know people that know people, so I could
Nice.
talk to them within 2 emails. So yeah, a friend of
Who
mine
knows?
won the Clive Cussler award for best novel. So
Oh,
That is awesome.
yeah,
But this is a quick tangent, but I think about that all the time. There's so many incredible frameworks for stories. Like, in my mind, I would love to write, I guess it would just like be a fan fiction at this point, but something in the Star Wars universe, because to build my own sci-fi world like Star Wars, it would just be like so clear that it was a blatant ripoff of Star Wars that it's like there's not even a point in doing it because it's just like this just I'm not going to say it because of copyright, but just we're in the Star Wars world. Like, come on, work with me. There's so many universes that you could go to in there that you could never like really pin me down for copyright infringement, but everyone would know. But I just love, and so like to your point, there's so many things where it's like, I just wish you could partner with the people and be like, all right, just let me write one. see if the fans like it. They're gonna love it. You gotta believe me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On my one of my novels, the time travel novel, I wrote and talked to Stephen Hawking Foundation about permission to use him because he came up with that famous quote. He threw a huge elaborate party, champagne, hors d'oeuvres, and nobody came. And then he only announced the week or two after the party that when and where the party was, and it was open to all time travelers, but nobody showed. So he goes, time travel is not real. I ended up just using the quote, but I couldn't use him in the story. The foundation politely declined my sample chapters. So cutting room 4.
Dang.
Heartbreak.
They lost out.
Yeah, for sure.
This is their loss.
Something that I thought was really fun about this, and also is another aspect of men's adventure fiction, would be, and I don't want to get into any like spoilers or anything like this, but it's literally within the first pages. Ryan sees somebody die, and then he starts seeing the Ankh, right? That's how you say it?
Right. Yeah.
And it's just floating before people, before they die. And so he almost has this like curse. And then you kind of, as the story reveals itself, it's like, oh, is it a curse? Is it a blessing? Is it something more? And I think that that's something that is really well done throughout this genre. So I think what's so cool that you are able to pull in like aspects from so many different areas of this adventure fiction and then meld them all together into this grand treasure hunt that the Egyptian Enigma is. So what was kind of your inspiration for that? Is there anything in your mind where like you have stories that have this sort of like trope or idea behind them?
I think the underlying trope is the reluctant hero, the unwitting hero, and it's not the farmer boy with a stick who rises to become king. This is just your average guy who things start going bad and he's seeing things, and it happens every time somebody dies, and that's how it starts. I didn't write it with the intention of the curse or his abilities being the answer to everything, because that's like the God reflex for an author. Well, I have no way out of this situation, so I'm just gonna give him another power. I kind of did it step by step to build the story, but the story doesn't really revolve around the powers or the abilities of the character. It has more to do with the adventure, the treasure, the situation. How does he react in these situations? What does he do? How does he rise to the occasion? And in that regard, I felt the curse was early first third. It does play a significant part. He can he starts using it for his own. He can understand it more.
Yeah,
and he uses it to control reaction and alter some events. So in that regard, it does play a part. Okay, I just contradicted myself there. So it does play a part, but it's not a significant part. It was only to further develop in the story. So I've never used anything like that before, and I've done so many new things for me as a writer in this novel that it just it's like I'm putting myself out there. I feel like I'm exposed. I'm not haven't got all the reviews back yet, so maybe folks won't like it. Maybe they will. I'm putting it all out there. So
yeah, I think you do it really well, and that's something that an author like yourself or Clive Cussler, like you guys, you're able to take something like everyone knows curses, everyone knows treasure hunting. So it's like, what can a skillful author like you do to make it new, to make it fresh? Because people might think on the surface, oh, I could write a treasure hunting story. But then if you're relying, like you said, too heavily, it's just this, or I could do a curse and it's just about that. And you use it as a crutch almost, like to your point of, oh, he's in a pickle. Well, he's got superpowers. He's out of the pickle. It's like you're not using your skills as a writer then. And so that's kind of, for me as a writer, when I'm a reader, it's fun to see, okay, how is the author going to tackle this? And like, how are they going to, will play within the framework of a treasure hunt, but do the Da Vinci Code, like you said, where it's like, oh, this is totally different. This is wild. I've never seen a treasure hunt like this. Something like that is always impressive to me. So, kudos to you for not using it as a crutch. Just curious, as like writer to writer, was it ever tempting to be like, I don't know how to finish this chapter? Or did you ever want to like go to fix it like that? Or was that always an intentional thing for you to like, don't do that? I can't do that.
I think it's safe to. I know for anybody watching, listening, we're being somewhat cryptic of what what the character's talking
which makes
about.
it more like a treasure hunt.
Yeah, well, we are talking about a treasure hunt, but the character's ability, I came up with a stone singer. And what is a stone singer? It was basically a mason of the ancient Egyptian times that could manipulate rock, monolithic stones, by sonics, by their voice. It was an ability they had, and that's part of the reason how they were able to shape the rock. And the main character, protagonist, Ryan Peaty, is a 22-year-old man in modern-day Toronto, where he starts, Canada. So he develops this ability to manipulate stone. Now we're sort of all on track here. I've had him almost get out of situations entirely by being able to use it, but then something at the end doesn't go right. For example, he's in the museum and he can throw those dolarite stones like ping pong balls and take out a couple of guys, but then the third guy, well, he's not stupid. He takes the hostage and forces the situation and things get out of his hand. Or there was another time when he was stuck in a jail cell. How does he get out? Well, he started going through the wall because he could move a brick. Oh, well, he has an ability. He can't quite get out, and then he's caught again. So it does sort of work, but it doesn't. So in that regard, I didn't want him to have godlike, super-like powers and abilities. Like I said, I really just tried to use it minimally just to further the story. And it didn't give him edge too much.
Well, yeah, it's like you said. I think that he starts out as like, all right, no skills, no ability. If you throw this dude into a action adventure story, he's going to be in a lot of trouble. Like he's very smart, so he has that in his favor. But I think that it's just a new tool, and I think that what's so good about the story and what makes it not a crutch or not a tool to get like a get out of jail free card is that he's learning it with the readers, which I think is what's so interesting about it. Is like it's not like we're coming in on like year 10 of Superman or something and he's just like everything's easy for him, right? Like even the stuff that could be easy for Ryan is still challenging because he has no idea what he's doing. He's just like this is just as new to him as it is to the reader. And I think I don't know if you've ever read the Michael Vey series by Richard Paul Evans.
No, I haven't.
It's a really good series. It is more young adult fiction, but basically there's these like 16 kids who are at a hospital and they're born at the hospital like the night they do an experiment, and they're all gifted with these electrical powers, and they're the only ones in the world who have them, and they end up going on this crazy. It's like more of a spy, secret agent, superhero type of story, but it's very, very enjoyable. But it reminded me a lot of, or this reminded me of that. Egyptian Enigma reminded me of that because it has a very likable character who's kind of out of his depth, but he has this great power that he has to kind of understand and pair with his already innate intelligence and ability to field situations. But he's also just a kid, like 22 years old. He's just like figuring stuff out. And then you throw in such a good character in Crystal, the museum lady, and it's just the dynamics are so much fun. So yeah, I never was reading it or listening to any part of it, and I was like, oh yeah, he's gonna get out of this, and it's not gonna pay off, because every time you were like, you're like you said, he gets close, and then you're like, all right, this is just like, it's basically if he had fighting abilities, and he's just like still, it kind of levels the playing field for him. It doesn't necessarily tip it in his favor to the point where you're like, all right, he's just gaming the system at this point. So yeah, it's really well done.
Yeah, kudos to you. So curses in the genre itself, if we were to touch on those, Nathaniel and I, we looped you in as well. We were thinking like Curse of the Black Pearl comes to mind for me as one that it's curses in the title, but that one was another one that's done well, where it's the blessing or curse, and it's interesting to see that used in writing. Where if you guys need caught up to speed, any listener who's like, I don't remember what the Curse of the Black Pearl was, I had to look it up myself. It's like they stole Aztec gold, and it was cursed Aztec gold, and they stole it and sold it, and once they did that, they made themselves immortal. And it's like you'd think immortality would be pretty good, but it actually can end up being pretty bad too. So, is that, are you guys fans of Curse of the Black Pearl? You guys like Pirates of the Caribbean? What are your thoughts on the use of the curse in that story?
Right. You could go first, Dave.
Well, everybody's familiar with the Hollywood adaptation for it. I would like to read the book, because we all know how Hollywood will take a really good book and destroy it or modify it into such a way that you're like, well, it has absolutely nothing to do with the book. And they're like, I know we had to do it because it's a movie and we got 95 minutes or whatever. So I think I'd like to probably read the book to get to the heart of it, to follow that actual trope through, because in the movie, again, from sword fights to everything else, it wasn't quite as prevalent.
Yeah,
it was the underlying theme, but it wasn't. I don't think it was properly done. So
yeah, it was almost. Yeah, it was almost like it was the treasure hunt itself, right? I'm pretty sure they were trying to like return the coins so that they would be mortal or something, and so yeah, it wasn't. And it was like halfway through the movie, I think, before you even realize that they have that ability. I think maybe Jack gets stabbed or something. I have not seen this movie, so to answer the question myself, no, I don't even like it that much, because I've seen it once or twice. It's like, yeah, I don't know. I've seen it once or twice, but me and Nathaniel were saying it's almost like too tame, or to your point, like too Hollywoodized, too watered down. I personally didn't even know there was a book. I knew there was a theme park ride as well, but the fact that there's a book, I gotta read that.
I'm fairly sure it was all based off a book.
Okay, that's sweet. I gotta check that out.
Yeah, that is cool. Yeah, I
almost closed this window. Okay, sorry. Won't touch the
You're
screen.
good.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, well, and that's what I like so much about your character, Luke, of Cutlass Cain in our short story collection, is like, the world needs more pirate stories, and the world needs more stuff this is why Egyptian Enigma is so good as well. The world needs more stuff that like leans into the supernatural, like curses. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? Is it a blessing? Is it a curse? And then like, yeah, there's going to be things that are really good about it, and then there's going to be things that are not so good about it, which I think the character Moon Knight in the Marvel universe and then the Marvel Cinematic Universe is another good example of like, this dude he's got split personalities. I think there's at least 3 of them, maybe more. But the one guy is just like a very mild-mannered dude, and then when he falls asleep, he takes on the next personality, and that next personality is a former mercenary who ended up dying in the sands of Africa and then is taken over by a Egyptian god, and then he becomes like his servant, and they have these crazy adventures, and it's really entertaining. And I think that it's like we were talking about, if you are able to handle the curse trope well, it can make your story so much fun, and you can have these things that are like, all right, he's got this incredible ability, but now he's also limited by the fact that there's a thousands and thousands of year old god inside of his head, where now he has to like, is he having a mental breakdown the whole entire story? Like, does he have
Yeah.
even more split personalities now because of that? And I think that that's what's so good is now you've not only is you, first of all, you got a character who has internal conflict and who has difficulties adapting to life, even with like Ryan Petey, and then you throw in this whole brand new curse thing like with Moon Knight, and it's like, oh my goodness, now this dude's like, not only does he have all these outside forces trying to figure it out, he also has his own internal forces, and then he has someone else inside of him adding more internal stress. So it's like even the boring parts of a book that's just like dialogue, it's like, dude, there's like 6 people talking and half of them are inside of the main character. So it's such a good thing if you can do it right, which we all kind of agree that the Curse of the Black Pearl let that one slide out from under the radar and kind of miss the mark there. But I think that, and Luke and I talk about this all the time, I mean, that's why we like The Mummy so much, is it's so good to have stories that are able to, and it's why the genre works so well. When you incorporate a little bit of horror in a curse, in something like this, where it's like, okay, there's supernatural forces at play, and then you put them in a men's adventure fiction, action adventure setting, it's like, dude, this is, now we're really like, this is singing to me. This is a beautiful thing. So it's really fun when it comes together.
Yeah, that's a good point about the mix when it's the curse being something so new. It's almost a different way to get into the character's mind, and you get that in the Egyptian Enigma as well, where it's like this kind of seeing how they adapt to the new situation and how it develops and how it's gonna impact their personality. That can tell you a lot about the character. So if you can use it to enrich the character, that's all the better, and that's what you do well. Where when we're talking about Curse of the Black Pearl, it's like maybe that's what they missed the mark on, is why don't we get a deeper conversation of what that's like for Jack Sparrow to deal with this immortality? Why is that not talked about? Right. So yeah, if you can use it to leverage the character growth and character development and audience understanding of the character, that's awesome.
Yeah, if it doesn't further the plot, then I don't see a need for it, and that's how I took it, because you had your internal conflict in the mind of the character, and he was, is this real? Is this not real? Is this actually happening to me? As well as, why am I not freaking out? Something I should be freaking out about this. I just saw somebody die, but something's happening, right? So then it starts from there. And if you do it in a gradual way, I think it's just, it's just another type of conflict within a story that you can have, and the mental struggle as well of the internal dialogues, I guess you could call it, and as well as the external as well. So, but I didn't go that route. I didn't have other people really interacting with any of the voices that Ryan could hear. But that was tempting, actually, and it's still not closed. It's still not a closed door yet. So
Right.
Yeah, you got more room, more time to have to be tempted by that.
For sure.
But it's absolutely used well as a you versus you kind of an externalization of the you versus you conflict, which I love so much reading about personally.
For sure.
Well, it's a really good opportunity for growth as well. So you can see how a character, not just in my story, any story, I don't want to say, I'll just say there's problems in the beginning, whether they're psychological, mental, or external on the character, and they fight and go through that battle, as well as completing a good story, and get the treasure or the resolution at the end. It's a win-win. So, for me,
absolutely, definitely, and story's got to come first, like you said. That's key, right? If anything is above story, then why is the reader there? What do they, they want to be entertained.
If it doesn't further the plot at all, then, there's 20,000-30,000 words on that I wrote that weren't in this story. So, they didn't make it because it didn't do anything. It's like fluff. The parts as a reader, when you're looking through a book and you just tend to skip over, I really try and avoid writing that or leaving them in the story. If they don't further the plot, then it's gone.
Right. That's why it's so smooth and cinematic almost when
Yeah.
you pick up one of your books. It's like
I'll
keeps it
take it.
the
I'll
flow
take
and
that as a
pace. Yeah,
win.
yeah. I love that.
To final movie that didn't quite get the curse right, but had a lot of potential to, would be the 2017 Mummy with Tom Cruise, which
Oh yeah.
uh, be against all odds, I actually really enjoyed that movie. I think it's because everyone hated it so much, so my expectations were like as low as they could possibly get, and then it was like not half bad. So I was like, hey, this is kind of fun. But I think that that was something that they did. They did it well, but they also didn't do it as well as they could have. Was like he's getting chased by this mummy throughout the whole movie, and the concept is basically that the mummy's lost bride is trying to bring back the mummy and make Tom Cruise the vessel for it. And so you have, I mean, we're back to Egypt again, first of all, so a nice little tie into
Yeah.
the Egyptian Enigma. But so the whole time he's like running from this, and then there's these aspects where he's like, I survived a crazy plane crash for some reason. Like, how is this possible? And so he has these superpowers more or less, and he's trying to process it, but he's also trying to get everything the way that he wants it to get to the end of the story in like the right way. And then at the end, he has to do something that's totally like spins on its head and changes the story entirely. And I think that they did a good job with that. I think where it falls short is that it's a great setup, unfortunately. Like not a perfect setup by any means. Like Luke and I said, for some reason, a third to half of the movie is just in dark rooms. All of a sudden, like you lose all of the mummy part. But when they're actually like focused on the mummy aspects and they're not trying to build this cinematic universe, it's pretty fun. And so I think like if we had gotten a Mummy 2, or they'd put the mummy character, the character from the mummy in a sequel movie, it could have really fleshed out, and it could have given you something similar where you've got a character who all of a sudden is set upon with these crazy powers from a curse, and it's like it's kind of good. I now am like I can't die. This is kind of fun. And I have all these crazy superpowers. But then it's like the other side's like, dude, am I even a human being anymore? Like, have I lost my soul? So I think that you could have done so much where it's like, dude, this could have been so good. And we just didn't, we never got it. So
Well,
all
the
that.
first movie with
Go
Brandon
ahead.
Fraser was, I felt, as much as it was an action adventure, I also felt it was romantic. Ah, the
Yeah.
guy's been dead a couple thousand years, and his first thing he wants to do is bring back his old girl. They just want to get together again. Is that so wrong? Yeah,
That's so wrong.
yeah. Who am I to judge, right? But yeah, I think Brandon Fraser and Tom Cruise in The Mummy 3 should probably be a hit. You could combine the two Mummy movies.
Yeah, they definitely could. They could. I hear random rumors every once in a while that Brendan Fraser is going to come back for another one, but who knows? To your point of the Mummy, the new one, the Tom Cruise one, is like, yeah. What I liked is the unreliable narrator. I don't even know if you saw this movie, David. I didn't. I just like the 2017 one. I just saw it for the first time when we were prepping for the Mummy episode. So if you haven't seen it, no harm, no foul. But there is like this unreliable narrator thing that they play with, which is kind of cool. For like Tom Cruise isn't really sure what's to be believed, what's the curse, what's happening. I liked that. But it's interesting that it was almost verbatim the same plot of The Mummy with Brendan Fraser, but not nearly as captivating. So shows you if you're gonna,
that's for sure.
yeah, definitely better special effects, bigger budget, probably. But yeah, it's if you're gonna just put the cart before the horse and try to do the dark universe and focus all of that, again, that's putting something before the story. You gotta give us something to care about before we say we want 8 or 10 of these things that interconnect.
True. The best part I liked about The Mummy, and I touched on it briefly in my book. This is just a coincidence that we're talking about them both, but or The Mummy anyway. Is civilization for the last 10,000 years is buried mainly in Egypt. You can't dig anywhere there without finding something that is hundreds or thousands of years old, and that's why there's a digging ban in Egypt and most of Africa, to be honest, because civilization has been there for a very, very long time. So that's the part that I really enjoy. What else is there? Well, like,
Right.
we haven't discovered hardly anything, to be honest. The big stuff we got. We got some pyramids and we got the Sphinx and whatnot. What else is there? Like, there's got to be something good. It's got to be amazing.
That's what probably makes Egypt such a great place to throw adventure stories, right? I mean, how many take place in Africa or Egypt? Like, it is such a great ground for that. And to your point, I mean, even as you're talking about it, the gears are turning. And you're right. You're like, what is down there? Like, it's like, what could be buried? It's almost like the ocean, where people are like, we only know certain percentage of what's under the ocean. Imagine the percentage we don't know of what's under Egypt. It's kind of sweet. I love that. And that's, I think, why this story works so well, is because you're mixing in those facts, because you're putting your research into a cinematic, fun reading experience. It's like, oh, it's very captivating, very engaging.
Oh, for sure. Like I had mentioned, like there's a labyrinth of tunnels and that stretches for miles underneath the Giza plateau, underneath the pyramids. That's true. It's really there. We're the government there has not allowed full exploration because they're fearful of collapsing the aqueduct, which is going to affect the Great Pyramid probably. Minor stuff like that, but. I think somebody there knows a lot more than what the rest of the world is allowed to see, and I think that information's gated and closely held to somebody's chest. So I'd love to know it, though. Boy, I don't have enough money to buy that information, but
right. Boy, you can write about it. You
sure.
can make some thought, some rumors of your own, and turn them into some sweet stories, which I love.
Yeah, there's miles of tunnels. In fact, they don't know how extensive they are. They could go all the way to the Mediterranean. Like, they're just very very extensive. So and they haven't been mapped officially. They have been using lidar, a type of radar. To map certain things, and I had mentioned that in the afterwards, but none of that information's really been released. So, and you have to have certain permission to scan the area. So it's been done. So anyway, that's why we know there's some tunnels there, and where I referenced the Hall of Records location off the foot of the Sphinx. There's actually a hollow chamber there too, but again, they don't want digging.
That's so sweet.
Yeah,
I love this.
So it's all real. Everything I wrote is real, including the entrance to the Sphinx at the rear, because I had somebody interrogate, and the team went into the Sphinx and whatnot, down a ladder, and then crawled through a tunnel. All that's real, by the way. Some tourists got loose one day, and they had their little cameras, and they snuck in there. And you could see the ladder going down about 11, 12 feet. And directly across from them was another tunnel loosely boarded up by like a skid or something. And they didn't have time to go through the other tunnel until they were caught. But they did manage to upload that video. So, you can see all this. So some of them are robber tunnels because that's been a prominent target for so many years.
Yeah.
Some of them are robber tunnels, like the entrance from the top of the Sphinx is supposed to be a robber tunnel. And the one from the rear, I think there was another one too, on behind the right leg. I can't quite remember now. So
well, that was
last
so
year's
cool.
memory.
Yeah, what was so cool about reading it is like you can tell that you wrote this book because you want to go on a treasure hunt to Egypt. It's I mean, maybe that's not why you wrote it, but the whole time I was reading, I was like, this dude knows his stuff. Like, he's got it locked in. If I had to pick someone to take on a treasure hunt to Egypt, it's got to be you because of all the stuff that you know. I would have no idea. You be the brains, and I'll try and fight people off, but I'll get my butt kicked. But we'll figure it out. You'll get us there.
I think it'd be so cool. Yeah, it's a treasure hunt. Everybody likes a good treasure hunt.
Right.
That's how I feel anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But when you got to the end of the book, if you know me, I don't like giving things away, but not everything happens the way it should or seems. However, that leads to books, 2 to 7. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah. Very exciting stuff. Well, and we're happy to keep reading them. I hope you keep making the Egyptian Enigma stories. I
Right.
want to see Ryan continue to grow into the character that he's becoming. So very excited for that.
Thank you.
So we have some locked questions for all of our guests
Okay.
that we like to ask, and it might feel like we're putting you on the spot, so we apologize. But
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Hit me. What do you got?
your we like to know favorite character across any medium. So it could be a book, it could be a movie, a TV show. Favorite character, and then favorite book of all time. So you can answer either one first, whatever comes to your mind. But I know it's a tough question when we ask favorites. It's like makes the mind go blank sometimes.
Okay. Well, let me type so I can get the title right. Okay, so my favorite book with character that really helps set the mode for adventure, the action part is Louis L'Amour, Last of the Breed.
Yes, that was
That is
so
one of
good.
my. I am such a fan of 95% of that book, and the last 5% is the last 4 pages that I just wished were somewhat different. I understood why he did it that way, but anyway. For those of you who haven't read it, I'm not going to give it away. So, yeah, Louis L'Amour, Last of the Breed. It's definitely one of my favorite characters. How he adapts, survives behind enemy lines, and thrives. And that part is just picks you up and makes you want to be that guy a little bit.
Yeah.
Go through what he's done, because it felt like after I've read that book, I could go out into the wilderness and survive.
Right.
I could. Yeah, it's just horseshoe rabbits. Let's capture them. Yes, let's make some pelts, and yeah, let's do this. Let's hunt a bear to survive. Yeah, that
Right.
sounded so cool. So that was one of my definite favorites. You also David Morrell. You touched on him earlier,
Yep.
but I don't think you mentioned his title. So. And the character, the favorite character out of all of them from David Morrell was Rambo.
Right.
Just it's the book is so amazing compared to. Okay, the
Yeah.
movie's good too. Don't get me
They're
wrong.
both so good. But
classic.
you're right. First Blood is like my favorite novel of all time. It is my favorite novel, and the movie's just as good. It's so good.
It's a classic. They are different. So if anybody's interested, well, who hasn't seen Rambo by now? So
Right.
this isn't a secret. We all know it. So it is what it is. But I think those two were just some of my classics that really kept me going for that type of feel. I think.
That's awesome, man.
I love that.
Yeah.
And you're now my new best friend because those are two of my favorite books of all time. So those are. I love Last of the Breed so much. Exactly what you said. Reading that, I'm like, oh, I can also make a bow string out of sinew. So I could do that easy. You made it look so simple, Louis. And then First Blood was the book that got me into reading. And I just was locked in with how he told that story and some of the moments of, like, when he's hiding from the patrol coming after him, for those who have read it, and they're right on top of him, literally. I was like, this is amazing. I can't even breathe reading this right now.
It's so good.
This is awesome, man.
I'd love to write.
Great
my
answers.
own. I'd love to write my own homage to Louis L'Amour and do my own type of Last of the Breed. In fact, I might have started something like that once. I got
Love that.
4 or 5 chapters and the story laid out, but I got so many other projects I got to put that on hold. I called it the Wilderness Escape. So
I love that.
Very cool.
Anyway.
That's exciting.
Well,
Oh, it is.
I mean,
I'm pumped.
we joke that this is the unofficial Louis L'Amour podcast because we both. Well, I was probably like 12 years old when I used to visit my family in Maine, essentially, and the one guy was like probably in his 70s at that point. He just handed me a Louis L'Amour book. He's like, "You should read this," and I was like hooked ever since. I don't remember what it was, but I mean, and that's why so many of the stories in our short story collection are heavily inspired by Louis. because of exactly that fact. That's why Luke and I love this genre so much, is because if you don't read one of these books and you're like you read Egyptian
Let's go.
Enigma, dude, I'm headed to Egypt. I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going and I'm gonna find some treasure. Or you read the Louis L'Amour stuff and you're like, dude, this is it. I'm selling my house and I'm moving to the mountains. I'm not bringing anything with me. I'm probably gonna die, but it'll be worth every second.
Oh,
So I
yeah,
think
yeah.
that
I'm
that's
not
what-
going to last long either, but that'd be great. Yeah, up until the end.
yeah, if there was a way to go, that's the way to go. So I think that's what's like so cool, and to have that as the background. Well, and you don't even need it as a background to read your writing to know that it's like, yeah, you're writing characters that you're like, all right, like Luke said, we relate more to Ryan, because if you throw us into a treasure hunt, dude, 50-50 chance that we're dying in like the first 10 minutes. We
I
could
might
get it.
not
We
make
could,
it out of the airport. Yeah.
yeah, we could play the odds. We could make it like down 4 or 5 50-50 chances and be okay, but it's pure luck. There's no skill involved here. It's so cool to have so to twist that on the head of like, all right, well, you want to be this character, but now we can actually be this character, and then to see him grow into the hero he becomes, it's like, yeah, dude, that's what I hope happens to me. I hope that I have the opportunity to grow into a hero. So, yeah, great twist on the men's adventure fiction formula, and making it a really, really enjoyable story that fits the bill.
If you guys haven't gotten the gist yet, we want you to pick this book up right now. Go buy
check it out.
Egyptian
Well, here we
Enigma.
go. Yeah.
Nice, look at that.
And he has an audiobook, which is so
Yeah,
good.
so this
Huge
this
fan of
book is
audiobooks.
Ebook, paperback. I skipped the hardcover because I don't like paying for them, so I figured why would anybody else? So anyway, yeah, as well as the audiobook. And the audiobook in action adventure category last week when I checked was number 22 overall.
Beast.
So it's
That's
doing,
awesome.
It's doing quite well. So I'm
Congratulations.
I'm so
Yeah, congratulations, dude. That's
Oh,
fantastic.
thank you, yeah. Especially
And
when I
thank you
see
for
the
coming
other
on.
guys around me. Oh, not a problem. I'm glad to have met you guys in person, so to speak. So
Yeah.
it's good, especially after all the correspondence. So, my
Yeah,
pleasure.
for sure.
Yeah, dude, we're honored to have you. You're such a great writer, prolific writer, which I love. We talk about the pulp work ethic here on the podcast a lot. We love seeing someone crank out work after work, and it's
fair.
amazing to see what you got cooking. And this thing is fantastic. So we really appreciate you being on. Thank you.
Yeah, and
no
speaking of
problem.
which, do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on socials and wherever else they may find you, and if there's anything else they should pick up from you? I know you mentioned a website before we recorded, but yeah, lay it on them. We want to make sure that people can have access to you, because we loved it so much, and we're happy to have you on here with us. So yeah, tell everyone where.
Thank you both for the kind words and making me feel at home and welcome. So that's good hosting on your part, because I feel like I've known you guys for a while. So I appreciate that. As to how to find me, I'm on. I have my own website, daviddarlingbooks.com, and I'm on social media, all of them by now. I think David Darling author seems to be the common theme there, but all the links are on my website as well. And I just joined Blue Sky. I'm not sure why I need another social media, but we'll see how that works there too. So it's all David Darling author, and you can find me.
Perfect. And we'll put a link below in the show notes or the description, so people can just hop on and follow you. And you also were on the Suit Up podcast with Terrence Lehue, correct?
I was. What a guy. Oh,
Yeah, Terrence is great.
He's the best. He's so good.
loved it.
Yeah. So you check that out. If you need more David Darling, watch and you obviously need more Terrence Lehue. So hop on the Suit Up podcast.
Yeah.
And pick up the Egyptian Enigma for sure.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
We'll see you guys next time.
Take care.
Bye for now.